Izuku was on his way to Nise's room, with a plate of food in hand. It had been about a week since Shina's attack, and Nise had still refused to come out of her room, to the surprise of no one. But at the very least she had made herself comfortable in her room. Knock knock. Izuku knocked on Nise's door. Nise, it's me Izuku. I have your lunch. The only people Nise let into her room were Fu, Sanson, and Izuku himself, but Izuku hoped with time that she would open up. Suddenly the metal door opened, and Izuku could now enter. Nise's room had changed, rather drastically. Seeing as Nise was a shut-in, she needed to find things to do as a shut-in. Fortunately for her, there was a friend. An ally to all shut-ins around the world. Anime. Yes, Nise had gotten rather hooked on anime, and her room reflected that. Posters of different anime guys and girls covered the walls, various figures lined her shelves, and there were 2 body pillows next to Nise, who was sitting on a beanbag chair, watching more anime. No you dummy, Sakura is the best choice, she's your childhood friend. Nise yelled at the screen. She is obviously the best waifu. Where did she even learn that word? Izuku thought to himself as he entered the room, and closed the door behind him. Nise had become an otaku in no time flat, and Izuku wasn't sure what to think of that. On the one hand, Izuku didn't have an inherent problem with otakus but, "Don't worry Sakura, I will always love you," Nise said to one of her body pillows, and she caressed it lovingly. But sometimes their behaviors could be problematic. "Hey, Nise," Izuku said to get her attention. "I have your food." Without a word, got up, and grabbed the plate, before sitting back down, her eyes never leaving the screen. "Yeah, this is not healthy." Izuku sighed. "Nise, can you pause that for a second?" Nise pouted for a second but quickly complied, taking the remote and pausing the show for the time being. "What? Izuku took a second to think of the best way to go about this. He didn't want to try and force her out of her comfort zone, or even push her out of it, especially since she just started making a comfort zone, but he did want to see if he could expand that zone, just a bit. "I'm very glad that you're getting comfortable here. That you're starting to feel a bit safe. But I was wondering if maybe you'd be willing to talk to people more. It doesn't have to be anyone you don't know. Maybe just me or Fu, or Sanson. I just don't want you to get lonely." "I'm not lonely, I have so many friends here," Nise said, gesturing to all the figurines and body pillows. "I have Sakura, Hinata, Machida, Zero, Rimuru, and all my friends on the internet." So that's where she learned those words. Izuku cringed internally. He couldn't push any more than he already was, given the situation, but he was liking how this unfolded less and less. "Well, so long as you're happy. But I would consider talking to Fu and Sanson a bit more. If you want to." Nise frowned at that. "They don't really seem to talk much." "Oh, yeah." Izuku quickly realized the fault with his logic. Neither Fu nor Sanson were particularly talkative, especially around people they were unfamiliar with. "Well, then I guess nothing can be done. I'll leave you be, but if you ever want to talk to me just call." "Okay?" Nise nodded, before looking back at the TV and unpausing. Izuku left the room, giving Nise a concerned look all the while. Soon Izuku was out of the room and had closed the door behind him, before immediately going into a slump. This was not a good situation. Nise was getting comfortable, but in a way that could be problematic in the future. At least with Fuku she actually wanted to go out and talk to people. Nise seemed to have no desire to do the same, and she had reason to not feel safe outside of her room here. And he couldn't do anything about it without the risk of making her feel scared or uncomfortable, and maybe even destroying her trust in him. Ugh. I need to take something for this headache. Izuku thought as he rubbed his temples. All I can do now is wait and build her trust in me. XXXXXXXXXXXXX. Things were not going as planned. True, the caretaker was a very nice person. He just radiated a sense of safety and kindness she'd never felt before. Never something she'd felt from her parents anyway. It hurt to accept, but it seemed like Fu was right. Her parents hadn't truly loved her. Some part of her always knew, she just didn't want it to be true. But now that she'd failed, there was no point in denying the truth any longer. She couldn't return, so she might as well embrace this new chance. Not that Nise gave her much choice. It was bizarre really, that girl coming out of nowhere, but she was an opportunity. So she allowed her to act while she lay dormant. The problem was, that Nise was an incompetent coward. She had no desire to stay in a room for the rest of her life, debating who was the true husbando with morons on the internet. Something needed to give. It seemed she'd have to intervene once more. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Fu walked up to Nise's room with a plate of food in his hand. "Nise, I have your dinner. Come in," came Nise's voice on the other side. But there was something off about it. Fu raised his guard and entered the room as the door opened. When he came in, he saw Nise, sitting on her beanbag chair, looking at the screen. Fu took a close look at her from behind, and once again he got that feeling of wrongness. Nise didn't seem as enraptured as she usually was with what she was watching, nor was she clutching a figurine or body pillow. Something was up, he was sure of it. "Hello, Fu," Nise said in a voice that was far too sweet. And that's when Fu figured it out. "Hey, not Nise, it's been a while since we last talked, hasn't it?" Fu said in response. "You already tried this act back in the forest, so how about we just skip this part?" "Okay." There was a short pause before Nise turned to look at Fu with a sharp glare. "You're too smart, you know that?" XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX then the next thing she knew, she was waking up on a bed, being stared down by Kiba and Fuku. Huh? Nise shot up and looked at both girls with alarm. About time you woke up. You need to answer for yourself. Kiba glared at her harshly. What? Nise backed up as far away from them as she could. What? How did I get here? Answer for what? What did I do? Something horrible, take a look. Kiba pointed at Nise's chest. Nise looked down at her chest, and quickly her face scrunched up in disgust. Tapped to her chest was a note with the words Ichigo is best girl written on it. How could you say something so horrid? Fuku asked her. Wait. I didn't write this. I don't know what happened, but I'd never write something like this. Nise defended herself, her fears currently put to the side by her fan rage. I didn't even think Darling in the Franxx was that good. Okay, I wouldn't go that far, Kiba argued. I kinda lost interest when they went into space. Fuku admitted, getting a slightly betrayed look from Kiba. I'm sorry, I couldn't keep up with the plot anymore. Listen, it's all very simple. Kiba started explaining. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX The three girls were now sitting in a circle on the floor of Kiba's room, continuing their lengthy discussion. Nonsense. The larger your boobs are, the more flesh there is between your heart and an attack, Kiba argued. And they're also very bouncy, I'm sure they could negate an attack. I don't think that's possible, Nise argued, before going into thought. Then again, I don't remember ever seeing someone get hit in the boobs. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX tsunderes are just annoying at worst. Kiba argued. Most of the time I think that tsunderes are pretty cute. But they're everywhere, Nise complained. In almost every anime, the first or second girl is almost always a tsundere and they're just so mean. At least yanderes are more rare. Oh wow, they both make good points. Fuku thought as she went into deep contemplation on which deer was worse. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Guns! Nise shouted. Her and Kiba were face to face, locked in a heated argument. Swords! Kiba shouted back. Guns! Swords! Guns! Swords! Guns! Swords! Gun swords! Fuku added, to try and appease both sides. The two looked at her curiously. Gun swords? They then looked back at each other and shook hands. Gun swords! XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Lady Kiba, I don't know how you're not getting this, Fuku said, looking at Kiba sadly. Isekais are amazing, even if there are a lot of them. I'm sorry Fuku, but they're overdone and boring. Kiba argued, firmly crossing her arms. Look, here is the plot to every isekai ever. A person dies, gets reincarnated, gets overpowered ability, and never has any real problems. It's just boring. It's not that simple. Not all of them are overpowered from the start, sometimes they have to work for their own. Nise argued. Like that time I got reincarnated as a slime or the spider one. And even if they are overpowered, the show can still be super wholesome. Fuku added. Like in Kuma Kuma Bear or that one about killing slimes for 300 years. It's like a comfy slice of life fantasy. Kiba sighed. I mean, maybe not all isekais are bad, but most of them are. Like that one about being turned into a vending machine. Okay, actually, that one is good, Nise argued. Let explain dash. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX All the girls were beside themselves with laughter, as they tried to stay upright. Oh wait. My favorite joke was the one where she covered her friend in slime. Kiba added. I remember that. I laughed so hard I had to pause it. Nise laughed. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. I'm still not over Rengoku's death, Fuku admitted, looking down at her legs. I know right. Kiba agreed. He was such a great character, why did he have to die? And so soon too, Nise added. He was only there for one arc. Couldn't he have at least died in the final like dash? XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX is a strong word, but yeah, I don't like it. Kiba agreed. Kirito's just so boring, Fuku added. Did you guys know about that SAO spin-off that's actually good? Nise asked them. The other two's eyes went wide and they shook their heads. Oh, you should watch it. It's about Gun Gale Online and Dash. While the girls were having their discussion, Fu was on the other side of Kiba's door, listening in. Looks like that did the trick. Fu thought. The girls had been talking for hours now, and he was pretty sure some bond had been formed. With that, his mission had been complete. Now he just needed to file the report. XXXXXXXXXXXX. So you met with the other personality again. Izuku and Fu were in his office, with serious expressions on their face. Fu nodded. It wasn't for long. She didn't really want to stick around. But I did confirm two different things. And those are? Izuku paid close attention. 1. What she wants. Or at least what she says she wants. Fu explained. I think she was being honest, but I can't tell for sure. But she said that she just wanted her old life to disappear. I see. Izuku took a second to try and figure out what that meant exactly, but that was a lot to try and put together, so he put it to the side for now. And what was the second thing you confirmed? Her name, Fu explained. It's Kira,